Hi again, and thank you so much for joining Abdul and myself as we cruise the Mediterranean in our first ever season as liveaboards. In the last video, we had just arrived in the town of Nydri on the east coast of Lefkada after sailing there from Assos in Kefalonia, where Abdul and I got engaged. We would have liked to have stayed longer in Kefalonia, but we had plans to meet friends and do some sailing around Lefkada. And our friends were coming in a car, and Lefkada is connected to the mainland via a bridge, so they could drive and meet us there. Having a car, they stopped along the way for groceries, and so they came fully provisioned. My kind of crew. After watching the sun sink down behind Lefkada's mountains with a couple of drinks, we decided to hit up the main town quay for some dinner. It was already well and truly the winter season, but there were still a few restaurants that were open, and we had an excellent meal of seafood, moussaka, and some other excellent Greek dishes. The next day was a bit cold, but it was clear, sunny, and with a little bit of wind around, we could do some sailing. We didn't have far to go to find a nice anchorage to stay for the night, but the plan was to go out, do a bit of sailing, before finding a place to stay a bit later in the afternoon.
Yeah, I was like looking at things too.
On the way out of Nydri, Abdul also put the final touches on her massive crochet blanket that she had been labouring over ever since Tunisia. So, wow. On the way out there, our new crew members also decided to make their mark.
No, I'm gonna have to come back on Argo.
It's the most prominent nationality on board.
That could be what I want to be.
Go on, sing the anthem.
The winds were light, but we weren't in a rush to get anywhere. In fact, we weren't really going anywhere. We decided we'd head roughly in the direction of Mytikas, a town on the mainland coast, and just decide to turn around whenever we felt like it to do some spinnaker sailing back towards Meganisi. With really flat seas, beautiful clear skies, and just enough wind to get us in the direction where we wanted to go, it was a beautiful morning and early afternoon sailing. If you've watched some of our earlier videos, you probably recognize Sean from the time that we were sailing in the Balearics. I was very keen to deploy the asymmetrical spinnaker and show him what it could do, just because this is something that would have been really handy for us in the light winds of the Balearics when we were there. And so once we had spent a couple of hours gently sailing towards Mytikas, we decided to jibe around, furl in the jib, and deploy the spinnaker for some really easy, kind of on the beam sailing, more or less back in the direction of Lefkada. The wind continued to drop, but that didn't bother us at all. We were in no rush, and so we were happy just gently sailing, as long as it took us roughly in the direction where we wanted to go, and that is Meganisi. Once we were a couple of miles out, we started motoring and checked out a couple of bays. The first one was well protected and picturesque, but we had a sufficient amount of time, so we decided to check out the next bay, which was Abelaki Bay, which was absolutely perfect as far as we were concerned. So we dropped anchor and did a bit of swimming and stand-up paddleboarding.
Nice.
Because it was well and truly entering into the winter season, there are only a few other boats in the bay. There was also a very cute looking taverna at the end of a jetty in the bay, but that had long since closed for the season. Didn't matter to us though, because we were well provisioned and could not complain about the view. We slept very well through yet another beautifully calm night in a Greek anchorage. Where are we going to?
To a sunken airplane.
Ever the prepared traveller, Sean had done his research and found that not far from where we were staying for the night, there was another small town with a sunken airplane in the harbour. And so we decided to go for an easy 15-minute walk to check it out. Because the anchorages here are so calm and so close to shore, we'd taken to using our tender, Argo, without any outboard, just relying on the paddles. The only problem was, at the time, our paddles were mismatched.
Well, that was a lot more effort than I thought.
With 4 people in an inflatable and mismatched paddles, it was not so easy just to get the short distance to the jetty in the bay. I committed to shelling out a few extra euros for matching paddles once we got back to the chandlery in Nydri. There was a bit of a steep hill to get out of Abelaki Bay, but on the whole it was a very easy and very picturesque walk. Eventually coming to the little seaside fishing port of Vathi.
I think so. I think we're good, right?
We eventually came to the town's main plaza right on the waterfront, but it was very quiet. Remember, it was already the winter season. We continued on along the side of the town quay to try and find this sunken aeroplane. Once we were there, we realized we really should have come better prepared with maybe some snorkeling gear and a GoPro to better see the aircraft, but we still got a good glimpse of it through the water from the town quay. Besides, Vathi was a beautiful town to just walk around in and soak up the atmosphere. There were loads of fishing boats, cafes, cats of course, and a couple of really pretty churches.
The little confessional. Should we leave you here, Ali? And,
I got a long list.
pick you up on the way back.
Before too long, we were on the road out of town and hiking back up the hill that would take us back across to the bay in which we were anchored.
Oh, I have to get up the hill.
We found a walking track that looked like it might cut the journey a little bit shorter, or at the very least make it a little bit more scenic. However, we did end up taking a wrong turn and ended up finding a secluded little beach right on the same bay in which we're anchored.
I've got to see this.
Although cut off from the part of the bay where we had left our dinghy.
I'm so close.
Wow, look at this.
With full clothes and bags, we weren't about to swim, so we hiked back out. We did eventually find the correct walking path, which also gave us a fantastic view of the bay. Although it would obviously be much busier and much more hectic, we were taking particular note to make sure we came back to Abelaki Bay in the summertime to take better advantage of the great weather and also the local tavernas that we find in pretty much every little bay, but are of course closed at this time of the year. It was getting to that part of the day for a nice swim and a relaxing drink in the cockpit of Argo. So we headed back to the dinghy and stubbornly, without a outboard and with mismatched paddles, made our way back to the boat.
Let's see who's got the coordination now. Come on, guys.
I'm learning the rest of it from here, to be honest.
Oh, so this, all of a sudden there's some excuses for you too.
We got an audience.
What are you doing?
I don't have space to move the...
Yeah, it went on like this for several more minutes.
Wait. I got both.
Yeah. That doesn't mean to buy a second. Go. It's almost efficient. No bickering in the cruise.
Come on, keep paddling,
What are we
Gabriel.
doing?
We eventually got there, of
360,
course,
doing tricks
and
now.
after waiting about 2 hours for Abril to get into the water,
There's
had a nice swim and a relaxing drink on deck.
No, just a shower.
you should have a
I swear half the footage I have is filming Abril as I wait for her to
very
reluctantly
refreshing.
get into the water. What is she doing on a boat?
Jump off the other side then.
No, then I have to swim back.
Oh, it's so far.
I can see a chain.
After a quick swim and breakfast in the morning, we were off again, exploring more of the inlets around Meganisi. We tried sailing but quickly gave up as there was barely any wind and we weren't going far anyway. We first headed for a little inlet at the skinny part of Meganisi Island that looked like a good day swimming spot. It also had what looked like the ruins of an old building and one that was completed much more recently. We decided to anchor for a bit to check it out a bit more closely.
You're really good at this. You should do this all the time. Oh wait. Speak this. More on your more on your right side, more.
We're pointing to the other. Okay.
I was starting to get very used to my fiancée paddling me to shore in the dinghy, even if mismatched paddles meant that the journey usually takes about twice as long.
Yes. Yeah, you stay 6 hours, no problem.
6 hours all day, no problem. Welcome to Greece. First time here, huh?
This is nice. This is cool.
We checked out the more recent building and came to the conclusion that it must be a little kiosk or something that's used during the summer months. At any rate, it was winter time and there was no one else around, so we're happy to just have a swim, paddleboard and explore the area. Couldn't tell whether this used to be a church or a little fishing hut or even a refreshment kiosk for tourists. But that's the beautiful thing about Greece.
More
Everywhere you
inside,
go, there's something incredibly old and with such rich history to it. There were a couple more spots that we wanted to check out, so we soon headed back to Argo to set off again.
It's excellent service, right?
Excellent service.
Because we were motoring, we decided to skirt fairly closely to the west coast of Meganisi because there are a lot of caves in this area. The idea was to drop anchor one more time for an afternoon swim or to explore some of the caves. However, our newest crew member, Ali, had taken ill. It wasn't seasickness, it was obviously a bug that he had caught somewhere, so we didn't spend too much time exploring the caves. We would have to wait until next summer.
Apparently used to store World War II submarines.
Sean and Ali's visit was only ever going to be a very quick flash in the pan, 3 days. And the next day they had to get all the way back to Athens to fly out again. For that reason, we decided to spend the last night here quite close to Nydri, actually more or less just on the other side of the Bay of Nydri, where they could, in fact, if they wanted, just get a cab the next day.
Do I have to put these lights on?
The town on the bay here is Mikros Gialos, and it has quite a few tavernas and a couple of resorts, which I'm sure are absolutely packed during the summer months. At this time of the year, we were the only ones on the beach as we took a sunset walk with a glass of wine.
I think Ryan's is like...
Another idyllic morning after a perfectly calm night here in the Ionian Islands, and our friends Sean and Ali desperately wanted to stay with us longer, but they had to get to Athens for a flight, so we were back on Argo and motoring Just a short little run up to Nydri, where we decided to anchor in the bay and run the guys to shore with their luggage in the dinghy, this time with the outboard of course. We were sad to see our friends go after only a short visit, but then again we were still in paradise, even if it was a little bit cold, and so after doing a little bit of laundry we went out and drowned our sorrows with something delicious to eat.
What's that?
I think there needs to be a reward every time we do laundry. Something like this. Like, what? No.
Sorry.
And so after saying goodbye to our friends, as sad as it was almost the first time that Avril and myself could sit back, relax, take a deep breath and reflect on the last 4 or 5 months sailing around the Mediterranean. Our goal from the beginning was to make it all the way to Greece before the end of the summer. And while we were definitely very late, we had finally made it. Please do the usual like and subscribe so you can join us for the next video, in which we visit some more towns in Meganisi and Lefkada, do some really great sailing, and finally get to the sad task of winterizing Argo and getting her lifted out of the water. Thank you very much and see you next time.